hey.
You gotta think about it. Think about it.
Game Girl. Game Boy.
Superstar DJs. Here we go!
Hey guys and girls, I hope you're all doing well. I'm here to do a video response. That video response is at the end of the chain, i.e. the person that I believe kicked it off is Tony Fighter 2. And it's 10 questions about video games. I think in every one that does a VR, they nominate, I think it's 2 individuals. And so it's gone a little bit down the chain, been around, seen some great videos. And it was James, Retro Import Gamer, who very kindly tagged me and one other person. So cheers, James. Anyone I'm talking about or referencing in this vid, I will do my utmost to remember to put them in the description. And before I start to go through the 10, and I've printed off the questions there because my memory ain't that good. I can barely remember 3 in my head. I think when we did one of the last VRs, so 10 would be Mission Impossible. Before I get into it, quick shout out to one of my local retro places, Retro Rewinders. That's literally 5 minutes up the road. That way, they've got a website. So if you're in the UK, but you're not in Essex, or you're not travelling through, then it's got a really good online store where you can get all sorts of some games, old like DVDs, Blu-rays, I think some toys now. So it's fairly newish, building up what he's got. And it's a nice little website. If you are in the area and you're travelling through, then even better to go in because you can have a look at all the wonderful goods that he has on his shelves, but also the kind of the main course of what he does is going in and just playing some video games. So he's got some consoles, retro consoles, obviously set up on good crop rotation, to go and just it's only like a few quid an hour, or slightly still pretty single digits if you want to do like a whole blooming day. It's cheap as chips. He also does like themed days, themed nights. That might be one evening he focuses on, we spoke about Tony Fighter 2, it might just be one-on-one fighters or strategy games, driving games. He's really mixing it up and turning it into a really cool little events place. So it's awesome. So go and check that out. Let's get on to the 10 questions. So number 1, what type of games do you like to play? Pretty much, everything. I'm fairly, rooted in kind of 8-bit, 16-bit gaming. I do kind of veer out a little bit of that. I mean, I've got, the Switch and I've got the PS5, but most of the stuff I play is kind of from those eras because it's what I, was brought up on. So, linked to that, platformers. I do love a good platformer. I've probably got more and more. I can't remember what it was. Someone else commented on this. Maybe it's a bit of aging kicking in, but puzzle games. I've always loved the likes of Tetris and Columns, but in recent years getting more into increasingly more into puzzle games. I love driving games as long as they're not too serious, i.e. I prefer arcadey games, Outrun, the Need for Speed titles, pretty much any Sega racing game. I far prefer that over a more realistic Gran Turismo type setup. I do love my fighting games, more in the back to the particularly 16-bit, more in the Street Fighter camp as opposed to the Mortal Kombat games, but still enjoy them. It's probably easier to answer the question almost in reverse, and I don't know, is that another question? Perhaps not, but what's your... that's question 10, so that's right at the end. I'll come on to that later. So a bit of a broad response to the first question, but pretty much like a bit of everything, to be honest. I do quite like the Metroidvania games as well. It's a good combination of having to think through a few puzzles or challenges, overlaid with some action platforming and some combat. I do like them. So yeah, that probably does it for question 1. Question 2, how much time on average do you spend playing video games? It varies like fairly considerably at the moment. I'm watching quite a few, films and catching up on some movies, some films that I haven't kind of seen before, some classics that I'm only just getting around to watch. So I'm near enough alternating where, I might be on a Monday night I'm watching a film, and then a Tuesday night then I'll allow a bit of time for gaming, but probably not an exact science. But on the nights, the evenings where I do have some time for gaming, it's probably like an hour and a half max, once I've squeezed in family stuff, finished work, had a bit to eat, done some unexciting chores around the house or bloody garden. Don't have much time, and I'm feeling pretty cream crackered by that point. I never do any gaming before work. I don't really do much before work apart from just get ready, shower, the other thing, and shave, and get ready for the day. I think the key exception to that is if I'm kind of commuting or heading somewhere for work. So there's a chunk of my career where I was spending time on, most days on trains. I was doing sometimes I was up in Scotland. There's a couple of years where I was up there a fair bit. So I'll be sitting around in airports and on short flights where handheld gaming really came into its own. But that's kind of quieting down. Where I do travel, it's either driving or obviously can't play games when you're driving. It would be extremely dangerous and unrecommended. So the other destination is kind of London on a train. So if I'm doing that, then I do tend to might have the like my analog pocket with me, or like the Evercade, or more recently kind of Game Gear. So it's probably more few and far between. And then on the weekend, I love to say I kind of devote even more time on a weekend to game, but it just gets consumed by other stuff. So to be honest, it's probably not much more than it would be on a weekday. Maybe an hour and a half. Depends on what's going on, to be honest. Question 3. Do you think video games can be educational? And I don't think anyone's, from the videos I've seen, said no, absolutely not. I'd stand in the yes, they are educational camp from a few perspectives. Maybe more PC gaming than console gaming, but I remember getting one of our first CD based PCs, and there being, was it Encarta or Cart? There was like an encyclopedia disc that came with it, and to be honest, I steered away from the text. I just wanted to see the videos and how realistic they were. The little they almost like National Geographic clips, stuff on there. Going back to the micro days, there were, I think one of the first, I call it like RPG, was that kind of Horizon game, which I think you got with the Spectrum, where you could pick your animal, like a hawk, a little mouse, and it kind of taught you about I guess the food chain, and how to survive, how to get food, stay away from predators and stuff. So there's probably a bit of learning in there. I'm sure there was some like mathematical games which I probably never loaded into the cassette tape. More recent years, use my son. I don't really talk about it too much on the channel, albeit we have done some charity stuff, but he has got some fairly significant learning disabilities, and certainly for him, through gaming and even through like iPads, weirdly he learnt sign language before he could actually start to talk. And he learnt a lot of the sign language through an application on his iPad. Since then, genuinely, he can't really do much modern gaming where the buttons are just bloody, there's so many buttons, it's just a bit ridiculous. But to be honest, that KOs me as well. So either goes for very basic games on modern consoles, or he prefers the 16-bit era where there's fewer buttons and it's a bit more straightforward. But he absolutely loves game show games, be it like Countdown or trying to think like Wheel of Fortune and stuff like that. And genuinely, his knowledge through Trivial Pursuit has grown significantly. So a bit of mental stuff in there, but then also from hand-eye coordination. Absolutely, that's really helped him. And in fact, when we went up to Great Ormond Street Hospital, for those of you outside of the UK, they have got a few consoles set up in the waiting areas, and there's a charity. I can't remember what it is. It's a charity which basically tries to get this kind of equipment into hospitals, and more often than not, it's kind of semi-educational games that they put out there. So it's an absolutely yes there for that one. Number 4, what don't you like about video games? So one of them I've covered off. It's where there's a ridiculous abundance of controls, probably more affecting more like modern games, and you're just like, what is this all about? And again, it's probably more my limited memory, but when you have to kind of go back into the menu, because obviously you haven't got a manual, so to go back into the menu to work out, okay, what are the controls? Even I got a cheap and cheerful version of, I think it was FIFA 22 or FIFA 23, and I thought, I'll see how many controls there are. There's pages of controls. It's just like, what happened to the old, pass, sensible soccer? I think it was just one button pretty much. Pass, shoot, the after touch and all of that. So 2 buttons, fine. 4 buttons I can get my head around, but these days it's just like, it's crazy. So what else I like about video games? Skill trees. Is that the right kind of term? Where you kind of you got to build up your kind of abilities, and it can turn a game within a game, and you're you're just trying to remember what you need to go back and kind of adjust it, and then I find that a bit ridiculous. But maybe that's more of a modern gaming thing. End credits. I've got a bit of a beef about end credits, that probably because of memory constraints. In those older games, you work your arse off to get through a game, probably with certainly no save states, but limited opportunities to save, another issue, and you get to the end and you're just greeted by a well done, bye kind of thing, and the credits roll, and you think it's a bit out of order for the player, probably for the people on the credits as well, because I know in some of the options you can go straight to the credits to see how they are, but all those poor souls that kind of put a lot of time, perhaps money, blood, sweat and effort into a game, and they're only seen if someone gets right to the end of it. So I think end credits is can be a bit of a disappointment. And then the fine, only because I was playing Resident Evil 4 not that long ago, the remake, I'll confess, but it still applies to the original. So the GameCube one, which I played back in the day, keeping other frigging characters alive when there's kind of hordes, so that I jot it down. I can't remember her bloody now. I didn't jot it down. Whoever the girl, Ashley in Resi 4, and she gets caught up. Or where there's kind of, they've got damage, and it's and then they die, you die, and it's just like shit. Start that again, which is bloody painful. It's probably enough of whinging. I don't think it's a question about what you like about video games, so it's probably going to sound like, why the hell are you even playing games? You just listed off some negativity, but I do enjoy them. Just a few little quibbles there. How much do you spend on video games is question 5. Probably need a gulp of something. Wish this was a bit stronger to get through this question. Still on the Vimto. Thank you, Roger. Tapped into his suppliers. It does vary, but too much. I'll start with the comment. Too much, albeit it has, probably the last month or so, it has curbed a little bit. I think probably no less than 100 quid, and on some months, and we use the lame excuse of me trying to finish off certain parts of the collection, probably goes up to about 300. What I would caveat, and it's not always the case, I'm not going to bullshit people, where I can, and particularly this year I've done a refocus on a few bits, I'm selling off stuff to then put towards that number. It's not like 300 quid of just available money, because that's just not there. So I'm now bit more disciplined trying to move stuff on. So I have moved on quite a few big hitters this year that I just haven't got necessarily the nostalgia for. And one I'm chatting with someone else about at the moment. So that will free up some money, which I then put back into, you know, what are other big hitters that I need to close down on collections. So yeah, I mean, the Game Boy games that I now need, there was 2 biggies. There's one I just sorted, and it was about 300 quid. So that's just, you know, one heavy month to sort that. So trying to recoup that through selling stuff. I'm hoping, touch wood, that I am genuinely, I don't say nearing the end of collecting, because that would be a complete lie, but very nearing the end of what was on my kind of wish list. So new stuff coming in would either be things I've come across on, you know, days out, you know, kind of events, trading, any kind of new games. So I'm still buying stuff for the Switch, like new games coming out. So I'm hoping it will come down, but we'll see. What's your favourite games console? Yeah, it has to. Always kind of get caught between the Master System and the Game Boy, only because they were the kind of the first, apart from the Specky, but first kind of gaming consoles that I own. But I think based on recent collecting habits and playing habits, it'll be the Game Boy, because I'm still playing a lot of Game Boy titles, not always on the Game Boy handheld. I'm using the Analog Pocket a hell of a lot. So it was a bit of an outlay whenever I got that, probably 2-3 years ago. So as well as it playing those games really, really well, it was a bit of a financial, it was a few hundred quid, bloody customs and delivery and all that. So it's only right that I feel that I should play it on that system. But it's great, it's a cracking little system. But yeah, the Game Boy, yeah, my kind of holiday, I've spoken about this a few times before, so I'm probably boring a few people that have seen some of previous videos. I've been watching the channel for a while, but a lot of time as a kid in France, a lot of time, car journeys, see relatives, like 6-7 hour, journeys, just with a ton of AA batteries and rechargeables, with my Game Boy always in tow, and I couldn't lug over my Specky or even my Master System to France. So it was always the Game Boy. And then through the commuting for work, again, it was, more often than not, the Game Boy I have, or Game Boy games I have in my pocket, in my bag. And it is genuinely, again, I've said this a million times before, so apologies, but it's the only console that I firmly believe I've never really stopped collecting for. There might be a year where I've got one game, or maybe no games in a given kind of year, but the next year for sure I would have bought a handful, or quite a few carts to kind of build up in it. In the last few years, mainly focusing on the box stuff, but still a few loose carts in the mix. So I don't think I could say that for any other system. Even the Master System, which I love, I've, like an idiot, sold stuff on a couple of times over the years. The original Master System I had, and then late 90s I had another one which I moved on. It's bad, I can't even remember what I did with the money, but it pumped into something else, some other hobby, drugs, I'm sure, just kidding. So yeah, the Game Boy's the one. What's your favourite video game? Again, I've done top 5s and top 10s, and I'll talk about always appear near the top. Gargoyle's Quest for the Game Boy, absolutely love that. Again, not just the nostalgia, but the replay value. It just looks beautiful, great soundtrack, the randomness of the enemy encounters, and it just goes into these action stages. The need to get those kind of power-ups to increase your jump, increase your attack. Love that. Love that game, present tense. However, I think in terms of thinking about this and just thinking about, okay, if I'm having I've got some people round on arcades, it'll be Street Fighter 2. It's probably the answer that I'm going to land with today. And in fact, when I was up north a few weeks ago, I met up with Steve, so 911 Gaming, and we went to the arcades in Blackpool. One of the first two, I think it might be the first two-player game we played was Street Fighter 2. So it's got that kind of social aspect, and you can obviously also play it like a one-player game, but it still doesn't ever bores me, and I can't play any of the Street Fighter 2 ones in the Championship Edition, and then beyond that, kind of dip in and out of the the Street Fighter kind of Alpha series, the most recent one. What was that, 5 or 6? Lose Bloody Trap. But the attachment is certainly with Street Fighter 2, for sure. I did play the original Street Fighter back in the arcades when it was the big kind of sounds random, like rubber buttons that you had to kind of bash, one for punch, one for kick. Very light, very kind of limited game, but obviously that franchise needed to start somewhere, and I'm sure without that it wouldn't have kind of gone anywhere. But Street Fighter 2 is going to be the answer for question 7. What's your favourite video game movie? It's a toughie. I was thinking if it was if the question was like a TV show, then I'd go with the not Netflix. It was I think it was on Apple TV, the Tetris TV series. That was friggin' awesome. And The Last of Us. I think that's been great. But we're talking about films. Yeah, what would I go for? So, bit of nostalgia for the original Mario Brothers, which is ridiculous, with Bob Hoskins and Dennis Hopper. I thought the recent Mario one was good, but I did feel equally it was just trying an opportunity just to chuck in as many Easter eggs as possible into that. So then by process of elimination, we're going to have to go in terms of films anyway. I'm going to go with there's been 2, and I think the 3rd trailer's come out, but the first new Sonic film that came out, I thought that was really, really good. We've rewatched it a few times as a family with my son on my own, and it's still real good entertainment. And I don't know if I could say the same about that for the new Super Mario. I think I've seen it twice, and the second time I was like, yeah, okay. But I do love that Sonic film with Jim Carrey, Dr. Robotnik. It's almost a real return to form of Jim Carrey. It's got obviously nice nods to the video game, but it's good bit of entertainment. But I think I don't know what it would be, but I think we're still waiting for the ultimate video game movie. I don't think that's kind of been done. I think it's been a Ready Player One, which is a bit combination of loads of video games. There's that Pixels game as well, but I think the best is still to come, or the best is yet to come. What's your favourite video game character? Again, I don't want to be too orthodox too cautious and say a Sonic or a Mario. I'm going to use the Sonic card anyway in the last question. So I'm going to go with Samus Aran from the Metroid games. I think it's just a kind of an intriguing character with bits about, again, a female kind of character, but a female character done well, in my opinion, where, through the franchise, little bits of a kind of, of a past, of a personality, kind of merged over time, but still some of it, not like secretive, but some of it's still a bit kind of hidden. So it's been quite an intriguing character to get to know, if that makes sense, over the years. But then also as playing that character, how she kind of morphs, and that whole, it's in the name, right? But the Metroidvania approach, I do love those games, which you need to love in order to love the character. But I just think it's done really, really well. And I still don't think early on, I can't know exactly when I twigged or found out it was even a lady within the suit. I think I just thought it was a robot as a kid, and that was from it would have been Super Metroid. I don't think I didn't play the original one till more recently. Never had like an NES, so it would have been Super Metroid on the SNES. So we're going to go with Samus, otherwise I'll be rambling all day. And then the final question, which is the bookend, I guess, the closing bookend where we started off. But number 10, what's your least favorite type of game? And there's a time and a place for it, so I wouldn't say absolutely detest it. But the least favourite type of game for me, don't shoot me people, particularly Stuart Generation Pixel, will be like a role-playing game, like an RPG. Not necessarily because maybe it's more me at fault. It's not you, it's me at fault, as opposed to the game genre itself. Just because I haven't got the time to do. And when I do have the time, I'm on holiday, it gets consumed by other stuff. And they're just not again, my limited memory, not the kind of game where you can just go in for half an hour and an hour. You probably need, good chunks of several hours to get into it. And where I do play them, and I did enjoy it. The last proper one I played was Xenoblade like Chronicles, and I just found myself having to remind myself of what, every time I put it on, of what had happened before, and just trying to catch up in my limited, a bit like reading a book, but you only pick it up like every 1 or 2 weeks. You spend the first part of that reading session trying to remember, or flicking back through pages of what the hell happened. So I do find a bit like that with RPGs. So when I do play a game, I just want to get straight into it and enjoy it, which unfortunately with RPGs you cannot really do it. So maybe it's a lifestyle thing. And that's it. I hope that made some resemblance of sense. I'm on my little lunch break here, so better get back to those lovely emails and meetings shortly. So what does that leave? That leaves 2 people to tag. I've checked in with these people out of retrohead courtesy that they want to get involved. Not that there's any kind of obligation, but I thought I'd just message them. Both of them are up for it. Both of them are frigging awesome channels. I've got a lot of time for that I've been watching, for quite some time, and they've always bring interesting thoughts and stuff to the party, far more articulately than me. In no particular order, the first one's going to be Gull Payne. Gull, I'm sure loads of you, if you watch me, if you watch him, but I'll leave details in the description. But always gets involved in VR's challenges, gaming challenges. Loves his handhelds. Across the piece, really. Some I love. He always talks favourably of DS, 3DS, Game Boy, but delves more into the Sony handhelds like Vita, PSP, that I don't have much experience or knowledge of. So I love watching those. I do love, I'm going off on a tangent, but do love watching channels that like something a bit different, some overlap perhaps with me, but something new, because then you're learning new things. He does some awesome reviews as well. Really nice. Both these channels are pretty, active and very, very engaging. So Gull's number 1. Number 2 is going to be one of my Australian buddies. So it's going to be Justin from the Games Room, and I love her. Yeah, such a top guy. I met him quite early on in my YouTube little journey, and always got a lot of time for him. He always leaves some really, like a lot of you guys, some really cool comments. His Games Room, he's got a fabulous arcade setup, some corking games in there. As of late, he's been going through doing some collection videos. But the thing above all I do like about him is it's very kind of the same methodical, more disciplined style of collecting. Me, I can just go a bit loose cannon and buy this and that, but he knows what he wants. He knows what has the kind of the pride of place or a place within his collection, and equally knows what he doesn't want and he doesn't need. So it's almost like a minimalist approach to collecting, but it's a really well thought through one, and I think it's one that I would benefit from if it was in my DNA, just to have a bit more of a structured, focused collection. But a really kind of articulate guy that always throws some stuff out there that isn't always that obvious and is always thought-provoking. So yeah, the Game Room and Gull Payne, they're going to be the 2. They're going to be down below. Please check them out. Both like a lot of channels, they deserve a lot more subscribers. So please, please, please take the time to check out. I'm not going to be a knob and say, you know, you must subscribe to them. If I was you, I would, and I do, obviously, and I watch their videos. But check out their videos, and that should hopefully, yeah, be the nudge, the motivation, if you're not already, to get subscribed to them and just showing them a bit of love, showing them a bit of support. That would be amazing. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Cheers, Tony, for kickstarting this one. Cheers, James, for tagging me. I love you and leave you. See you on the next one. Cheers.